Welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel. I want to talk about getting home. We all want to get home at the end of the day, and unfortunately throughout history there are things that have happened or things that could happen that could make it difficult to get home at the end of the day, right? And I know that's pretty abstract, but things like natural disasters, earthquakes could affect infrastructure, affect roads, freeways, things you depend upon, routes you depend upon to get home. Power outages, there was big power outages in New York 2003, made it difficult for people to get home. Beyond that, things like terrorist attacks, civil unrest, protests, any of those could affect your ability to get home, including the extreme end of something like an EMP that could affect your car's ability to drive, right? There are a lot of potential scenarios that have happened or could happen that could make it difficult just to get in your car and drive home. And in the event of any of those situations, there's a few things I think you'd want to have with you depending on where you're at, depending on how far you have to walk. Assuming you have to walk to get home, you really want a get home plan. Now we've talked about that before, the idea of a get home plan. How are you going to get home from where you're at, especially if you're traveling, especially if you're out of town? What's your plan to get home? And if you have people at home waiting for you, do they know your plan? Do they know how you're going to get home, how long you think it's going to take to get home, right? So you do want a plan. You do want to get home plan, and depending on the situation, your plan may not be to go home. It could be to meet somewhere, right? And that really depends on the situation. I know I'm being super vague and abstract there, but just in general, we're just talking in general, getting home. I said I got a few things here to show you, and really what kind of inspired me to sit down were some maps. I dug out some old maps. I was just looking at some bags and whatnot, and old maps, right? Road Atlas. This is a Road Atlas Scenic Drives edition, United States, Canada, and Mexico. And then you've got local maps. This is Texas, Oklahoma. We always say we're in Texas, so I'm not giving away anything there, but I feel like maps are sort of a lost art, right? We're very accustomed to, if not dependent on, the GPS in our phones or the GPS in our car to tell you where to go. But I mean, this is all of Texas and Oklahoma. It gets you all the streets, gets you all the freeways, tells you the cities. So for older generations like myself, we grew up navigating through maps. When you got to a new city, if you did road trips, I've always been a road trip kind of guy, you could just go to the gas station and get a map, right? And that would show you where to go. You'd have to look it up, right? There's Thomas Brothers and all sort of great maps. They're almost a little hard to find now, at least that's my impression, but you can still get them. So National Geographic does maps. These are both National Geographic. I was thinking this one was different for some reason. Now this is very high level, right? New Jersey, New Mexico, you've got an entire state on one page, so it's not highly detailed. One thing I like about this Road Atlas Scenic Drives, it has a whole section on scenic drives. So if you're talking more about off-roading, if you're talking about going bug out, or you just like a nice scenic drive, these kind of give you some spots to think about that could be packed depending on the situation, right? But they're alternative routes. They're routes that might be less well known, less commonly taken, right? And it actually gets you different areas. And you've got also a list of national parks if you're a bug out to a national park kind of person. And once again, you're just looking for a place to go on vacation. It doesn't always have to be doom and gloom, but it's got a cool list and some descriptions of different national parks, where they're at, and then all your different maps. So that was my original inspiration, but I grabbed a few more things I wanted to show you, wanted to talk about that you might want to have in terms of getting home, right? Getting home or bugging out. Once again, assuming your phone, we're very dependent on your phone. What about a compass, right? I feel like that may be a lost art as well, how to use a compass, how to know northeast, southwest. You may be the kind of person that just knows it, but it's a good idea. It's probably a good idea to have a compass, get a compass, learn how to use a compass. And in that, if you don't know how to use a compass, you don't have anyone to ask, this is a good book to think about, which is Be an Expert with a Map and Compass. We've talked about this before. You may not have to read the entire book to understand how to use a compass if you're short on time or don't like reading books, but this has got the history of maps, types of maps, topographical maps, orienteering maps, recreation maps, how to read maps, how to travel by maps, the origin of the compass, orienteering compass, how to properly use a compass, how to navigate with a compass and map, and competitive orienteering. So it's kind of a cool book. Highly recommend it. Bjorn, I'll say Kjellström, Bjorn Kjellström. I'm going to blow that, I'm sure. But be an expert with a map and compass. There's a lot of books out there. This is a solid book. If you don't really know how to use a compass, especially if you're talking about any kind of off-roading, right, or going off the roads, whether you're walking or driving, whatever you're doing, this I think will help you out, help you understand how to navigate, how to read maps if you're not familiar with reading maps. I think it's a lost art. I'm making some assumptions there, but I know it's easy to become dependent on our electronic devices, which may not always be there, may not always be an option, right? So a couple other things you might want to think about, especially in case of an emergency. This is a little solar pack for charging a cell phone, but some way to charge your cell phone, right? I know we're saying don't be dependent on your cell phone. However, if there's an emergency, a little way to charge your cell phone, right? Just a basic solar pack. They make external batteries, whatever you like, whatever fits into your plan, but some way to keep your cell phone charged in case you can reach out, let people know what's going on, where you're at. Certainly recommend that. First aid kit, this is just something basic. They make them bigger. I have bigger ones, but this is just an illustration of a first aid kit, and this is not a horrible one. In any situation, you want to have some first aid supplies available. So this is something simple, Band-Aids, stuff like that. Things you might need. You got triangle bandage, regular bandages, tweezers, gauze, just some really basic stuff. And we've done some videos on other first aid kits, and we'll probably continue to do videos in the future, just digging on first aid kits. But as a secondary to an alternative way to charge your phone, basic first aid kit is not a bad idea. And then jumping more on the survival side is water. This is a little Life Straw squeezy bag, so it's a water filter, water bottle combo. It has the filter built in. So if you're able to scavenge water, whether it's from a creek or even from a puddle, whatever it is, you're not sure if the water's safe to drink, just a basic Life Straw bag. I like the bag more than necessarily just the straw because it's got a way you can fill up the bag and then filter it as you go rather than having to sit there with the Life Straw or something like that. But any kind of a water filter is a good idea, especially if you're going to be traveling for any length of time. You need that water. You want to have that water. And with the water, of course, comes food. This is just a sauce rations, right? There's a lot of these little food packs out there. A lot of options. It doesn't have to be some kind of a sauce food pack. Could be granola bars, could be power bars, could be candy bars, right? You do you. I'm not telling you what to eat, but some kind of food. If you're going to be on foot for a long time, you want to keep your energy up, right? And something like this would certainly do that. Beyond food, water, medicine, way to charge your phone. Some kind of shelter, just some basic emergency shelter. So I've got a little bivy sack here and an emergency blanket. And hypothermia is no joke. You know, it is the #1 killer of outdoor enthusiasts, as I understand it. It's hypothermia. So even a basic emergency blanket could help you out, could save you in an emergency situation. I like the Life Bivy because it's sort of an emergency sleeping bag beyond the blanket, and it's just, you can see inside, it's basically just a heavy-duty coated life blanket. It's just emergency sleeping bag. They don't take up a lot of space, something you can keep with you. Right, all of these together, you can put them in a small bag, keep them in your car. Right, whether you want sauce rations or not. Just a few items, few things you might want to think about. Cover your rule of threes, get your 10 C's, get your C with the compass. Things you want to have ahead of time, right? You can't wait until there's an emergency to jump in and say, hey, I sure wish I knew how to use a compass, right? So maybe the book. You know, if you don't have someone to teach you, book's not a bad idea, and certainly maps. As I said, it's a lost art, maps. It was a different time growing up, telling all you kids life before the internet. But it is a thing, right? And it could make a big difference on navigation, especially, as I said, what if there's something like an earthquake or some accident, some disruption that affects your normal route, and you find out your cell phone's dead or your cell phone's not working, you're going to want to plot a course, right? And this, even a map, even if your car is working, right, this will show you how to get there. It shows you the other roads. So I know it sounds silly. If you know what a map is, it sounds silly. I think there's people that just aren't familiar with having to navigate that way. So hope that helps out. As always, thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.